Do you need hunting lease insurance? Absolutely, and here's why. Our hunting lease liability insurance covers not just the landowner from liability, but it also covers the hunt club. So there's actually coverage for cross liability, and even within the hunt club, member-to-member coverage exists. So, scenario, somebody hangs a tree stand and they do it ineffectively or dangerously. They tell you to go sit in that tree stand and it breaks and you actually fall. You actually would then have coverage for your injuries from that other hunt club member, okay? Likewise, if a landowner were to cause injury or damage to personal property from a hunt club, that landowner would be covered. So yes, do you need hunting lease insurance? I think absolutely. For no more than $215, the entire hunting lease and all parties are covered for 1 full year. I think it's essential. So we're asked quite a bit, does this cover just me or everybody in my hunt club? For the one price at $215 up until 499 acres, that policy covers everybody who appears on the hunting lease. So your entire hunt club, whether it's 2 of you or 102 of you, everybody that appears on the lease as a lessee and the landowner are covered for that one low price. So the insurance is called either hunt club insurance or hunting lease insurance. I won't go into it because it's kind of a regional thing. Down south, they're hunt clubs. In the Midwest, they're hunting leases. It's the same thing. Do you need to form a formal club and have bylaws and meetings? Absolutely not. Some of our clients in the South do that, but most of our customers and members up in the Midwest and in the East, it's just a couple, 2 or 3 buddies. They do not need to form a hunt club. By virtue of having a hunting lease, every member on that hunting lease is actually a club member. It's a terminology only. Everybody's covered without being in a formal club. Our master policies are written so that every single member, when they purchase their policy, they have a separate $1 million per occurrence coverage and $2 million aggregate coverage. So if a member in another club somewhere has a big claim, does that mean everybody's coverage is now taking a hit? Absolutely not. This insurance would be worthless if that were the case, in my opinion. But no, every policy purchase has its own separate liability limits. Everybody's covered. The way that basically the 3 or 4 organizations that offer this type of insurance do it is we all use what's called a master policy. So back in the day, the American Hunting Lease Association only had an August policy and a March policy. So if you had a lease that started in November, you would have to call in, you would purchase our August policy, so you would effectively have lost 3 months of coverage, and then the following August 1st, we would have sent you an email and you could renew, and then you get on that schedule where you have the full value. That's antiquated. The American Hunting Lease Association has made it antiquated because we offer a policy that starts every single month. So regardless of when you get your lease or you finally talk that landowner into signing a lease agreement or allowing you access, doesn't matter when it happens now, you call the American Hunting Lease Association or visit us at ahuntinglease.org and you can purchase a policy specific to that month so that you don't lose those 3 months and you get a full value for your money. That's important to us. Probably one of the more frequent phone calls we get is, hey, I fell out of a tree stand and I need to file a claim. Hey, I got hurt falling out of a tree stand. This brings up two very critical points. Our first question, and we'll send this to an independent claims adjuster. So the American Hunting Lease Association, we don't rule on your claim. That would be immoral for us to sell you a policy and then decide if you got to be covered, okay? So an independent claims adjuster through our insurance partners will be assigned and they will do a full investigation into the incident. However, I would always ask them, who hung the tree stand? And if they say, I hung it, then I say, okay, we're still going to give you or put a claim through, of course, but this is liability insurance. Somebody else has to be at fault. They caused your injuries or they caused the damage for a claim to actually be approved, okay? Now, if a hunt club member hung it and they hung it incorrectly, then you would have a valid claim. If a landowner, if there was an old tree stand on the farm and he said, yeah, you can climb that thing, you know, my son hunted in it 30 years ago, and you fall, then you of course have a claim because that old tree stand wasn't safe. So if you fall out of a tree stand, are you covered? It depends. If you hung the stand and you weren't locked in and you caused your own injuries, likely not covered. And that's really throughout the entire industry, that's the case. So if you don't know, the American Hunting Lease Association now offers what's called vacant land liability insurance. And basically, we just realized that not all landowners have a hunting lease or even want a hunting lease on their property, which is fantastic. They might allow friends and coworkers, family members to come hunt or hike or fish or maybe just have a picnic. It really doesn't matter why they're out there. Landowners are covered now with our vacant land insurance. So what's the difference then between our hunting lease insurance and our vacant land insurance? The hunting lease insurance is liability coverage between the landowner and everybody on that lease. That's it. The landowner is not covered if his or her employees come out to the farm for a weekend, or they have a picnic for their company out there, or they're just letting a niece and a nephew come out and fish or camp or anything like that. That liability is still at risk. That landowner is not covered. So we recommend that you would have both policies if you want to be completely covered. The hunting lease insurance if you have a hunting lease in the fall, and then a vacant land insurance to cover you from invited guests and uninvited guests, even trespassers who you owe very little responsibility for their protection and their safety. They still could be injured on your property. They still could sue you, and you'd have to defend yourself in law, in a court of law, and this policy will actually defend you in a court of law against a claim made by a trespasser. So those are the two differences between hunting lease insurance, which is just the landowner and hunt club, and everybody else is on the vacant land insurance. Vacant land is just $225. Hunting lease insurance starts at just $215. So what does our vacant land liability policy cover? Simple. This covers landowner only liability for invited and uninvited guests. Invited guests, family and friends, co-workers and employees that use your property for no charge. You're just a generous landowner. You bought this land and you want your family and friends to enjoy it. Kudos to you. Thank you for allowing them access to continue hunting and recreating outside. It also protects you from uninvited guests, and I'm talking about trespassers. If a trespasser becomes injured on your property, they may file suit, and you would have to defend yourself in the court of law. Our vacant land insurance covers you from that lawsuit. So it is a win-win for landowners. It is very inexpensive at just $225. And we highly recommend it for everybody who owns land, whether it's 1 acre up to thousands of acres. If it's vacant and you do not live there, you need this coverage. Will our vacant land coverage cover your legal defense? Let me be very clear. Yes, it will. This policy and our insurance partners have a duty to defend, and that's exactly what they'll do if you're facing a claim or a lawsuit and you're one of our customers. So the golden question is, does your vacant land policy cover me against trespassers? And the answer is an emphatic yes, it does. Hard to believe that a trespasser could cause you great expense, but the fact is they could. Now you owe very little obligation, or you have very little obligation to protect a trespasser in most cases, but that won't stop them from filing a claim or from bringing a lawsuit against you if they feel that they can win, and you would be forced to spend an exorbitant amount of money to defend yourself. Now, let me be clear. When you talk about trespassers, there's two exceptions that you do owe an obligation. If you know people are trespassing, and if you just know that kids or people are cutting through your property to get to another property, if you have an idea that they are using that property, then you do owe them an obligation to either prevent them from using it or to have this policy and secure them that way. The other exception is what they call the Attractive Nuisance Law, and that is for children. Basically, if you have something like an old mine or a pond or something that kids would think is attractive and that they might want to go see or investigate in it, and they don't comprehend the fact that they're trespassing, then again, you have an obligation to protect children from an attractive nuisance.